ho, and welcome to our first Christmas episode of the High Tech Podcast of 2024.
Woo!
Josh and I have brought a little extra cheer.
Oh, yeah, Christmas
Nailed
time.
it. Nailed
Yeah.
it. Look,
It's totally
we got our
Christmas at the time
lights.
that we're recording this.
We got Santa. We got Santa
Yeah.
up here, somewhere up here.
There's an elf. I like watching you try to point to things. That's why I didn't put anything above me. I put it only above you in the background. If you're looking at the podcast right now, there's a Santa above Will and a small elf sitting on the frame of his video. It took me a little while to align that elf. I hope you appreciate it. I was in Canva with the arrows on my keyboard trying to get that stupid elf's butt to sit on your frame. It was the whole thing. So I hope you appreciate it. Yeah. And my hat.
I love it. So we're bringing some cheer because this is the first episode. You probably, if you follow us on Twitter, which you should be doing because that's where we want you to follow and do all the liking and subscribing and beautiful things. Also on YouTube, also on the other stuffs, right? At High Tech Podcast, inbox at High Tech Pod Us, hightechpod.us is the website. All okay, done. Yep. The best part about all this is we're check. We are running 25 days of Techmas. This episode itself is happening on December 3rd. So 2 days are behind us here. Go over to X or Twitter and see the last 2 days of posts, which will show a different episode we've done every day leading up to Christmas. So it's like high tech Advent, if you're familiar with Advent. But we're just sharing some of the old stuff so you can pick and choose from all the tools we've ever talked about of things you want to using or integrating in your life. Yeah. So,
and there may be a small elf delivering those presents to you if you haven't already noticed that on social media. So,
thank you.
Honestly, I got to be honest. I forget what we named him. So I don't know what to call him here. What was the name that he was getting? Chris has this name somewhere.
That's gonna.
I don't remember it now. Anyway, he has a name, so go check it out. It's specifically only on X, aka Twitter. So you want to make sure to go check out over there. If you're not following us over there, that is where you'll specifically get this stuff. So our regular stuff will still be posted on all our other social media, but specifically over at Twitter, we are posting a new, like Will said, an episode from the podcast every day that'll highlight a tool that we've talked about. The High Tech Podcast has quite a library of tools over the last couple of years that we've talked about. So, which we discussed last episode, we might have to do a Where Are They Now? Because some of them are not what they were when we talked about them. So,
or they don't exist anymore.
Yes, but the ones we're posting about during this do exist still. They're real. You can go check them out. Make sure to do that. The prank is, it actually is just Notion every day. It's like you think it's
25 days of Notion.
It's actually just 25 days of Notion. No, I'm just joking. That's not real.
Josh would watch every single day. Here we are. All right. So this episode, Christmas episode number 1, we just want to talk about we titled this kind of Together Tech, or tech that brings us together.
Yeah. It'll probably be Together Tech because Chris tells me to pick small phrases, not larger phrases. So
love it.
It'll be titled The Tech That One Day Brings Us Together Yesterday, Tomorrow, Today. That's
and he'll
the episode title, right? Like it totally just rings off.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
It just rolls right off the tongue.
But the point of this is we're coming into the holiday seasons, and the holidays mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And Josh and I have a Christian background, and we have a Christmas, tradition in our family, but we recognize others may not. So hopefully, this is not just Josh and Will holiday traditions, but could also play into everyone else's. But in the midst of the holidays, I think we all can agree to one thing, that sometimes, while they're meant to bring us together, we may be physically distant, right? We have family all over the world sometimes, or we may have family that needs a little extra help to do things together.
Yeah, they need a little tech helper. I think that's kind of the goal behind this episode, right? Will and I realized as we were planning out the Christmas episodes, which there will be multiples. There's going to be another Christmas episode next week, and then you do not want to miss the third episode. If you check out any episode in this series, it is the last episode we will give you before we leave for the holidays, and you must check this out. There's a friend of the podcast with a golden voice.
Gold.
You probably know who he is returning, and it is quite the episode. So you want to make sure you check that out. But we have a couple different topics we want to talk about, and this one was kind of Will and I realized that not that we're unique in this. I think other people do this too, but we both Will and I think serve purposes in our different groups of friends, and we somehow serve we know technology to bring them together, okay, in different ways, right? But we do. I think that's a fair assessment, right? You do stuff in your family, especially that's like you use tech to like bring people together. I use tech a lot of times in friend groups and stuff to I would argue bring us together, so to speak. So we have a couple ways we want to share this. So I don't know how we want to tackle this. Do you just want to jump in? You want me to jump in? You've some ideas?
Let's go right down the line, because it's kind of it breaks Notion up a little bit that way. If we go 1, 2, 3, and if we just let you go, it'd just be Notion.
Well, Notion is some options. I know I have other options, right? So Notion technically is not the tool I've been using for this for a long time, but I now do. So that's on me, really. But yeah, no. So the first example of tech that brings people together. I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but especially as we get to adulthood, getting groups of friends together seems difficult. Now, for Will, it's not that hard. He just throws a rock out his door, and he has a friend, and they get together.
My signal's the rock signal. Like I put out the rock signal, and people show
like up. You throw a rock. It's not like a signal.
And I hit a friend.
It's more just like you've befriended so many people that I'm not always confident you live at your house. Like I just think sometimes this house is a vacation home for certain days.
I should start renting that.
Yeah, you should. It'd be pretty funny. But anyway, so for me, it's difficult to get friends together. So let me give some backstory to this, right? So I have a unique group of friends that I've known since I was in middle school, really, and life has just ended up keeping us together, right? I know a lot of people lose track, but I think we're at 20 years now or something at this point of friendship. I think I'm trying to remember how long Oliver and I have been friends since I was like 12. So yeah, probably like 20 years, give or take. So I'm an old fogey. But so we've been friends for a long time, and life has just taken us all different directions. But one thing that was like always a thing we did is we love playing board games. So Will's a part of this now too. Due to a nice person invited him. I don't know who that guy was. And so the somebody, it was Alex. No, so we have this thing, right, where for me, where this really hit is I moved away for a brief period after college, moved out of Lancaster, and a lot of other people were from Lancaster. And we would try to do like monthly game nights, but that didn't happen on the regular, right? Like those listening, you can probably tell me you've experienced the same thing, which is we should get together. Okay, what about these dates? Oh, I can't do those dates. What about these dates? Oh, this date works for me, but this date doesn't work for me. And 18 billion text messages later,
I was about to say
you give up on getting together because it's just become too much of a pain in the butt. Or the classic, I love this. Okay, the classic, we should do this again next month. Yeah.
When?
Nope, that's just how it ends. There's
silence. Yeah,
nobody ever gets together, right? So a while back, I went nerdy and obsessive to a T. I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of us not being able to figure out how to get game nights together. Our game nights were also growing with people. It expanded from like 4 to like 6 or 7, and so it was getting harder and harder to figure out people's schedules. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna start sending like a poll or survey out every month. Everybody's gonna fill it out. Who wants to come? Tell us which dates. I'll give them the available dates in the month in it. And they'll fill it out, and we'll use that to figure out which date is best for the most people, right? And so this was the system that was born that day and has lived on. I don't know how long I've been doing this, Will. It's probably been like 2 years.
2 years. I'd say
easy. Probably long enough that it's just like now a routine.
You weren't doing it when I joined game night, but you started doing it shortly after, and I think I've been coming like 3 years, maybe
and
4.
I was doing kind of half out. Yeah, I probably started around the time you started coming. At least we invited you to game night. I think it's when I had just started doing it. So, and there were a couple iterations of this. That was definitely what it was. Actually, I was just trying to figure out how I could find days you weren't going to be there.
Right.
Ooh,
I invited him, but he's not real cool. So
anyway, it's not that revolutionary, right? But it's now the question is, what tool did I find? Okay, to use this, because there are a lot of different ones. For a while, I was using Poll Everywhere. I think is what it was called, right? I think is what I was using. I'm trying to remember.
That's one we used to use in teaching. Like you send a poll to people, poll everywhere.
That's
I don't know if that works.
That's the one where you could poll, like you could poll multiple dates, right? And it would tell you. Now I can't remember.
I don't know, dude.
This is really gonna bother me now.
Well, and like the other side of this is like some of the top names and scheduling are like Calendly and stuff, and they're not.
Yeah.
No one wants to pay for something. Calendly.
No, that wasn't gonna work for friends.
Like, it just doesn't. It's just not perfect. So Josh found the perfect free option.
Yes, this was the group for free. It was Poll Everywhere for a little while. I was using Poll Everywhere for a little while because it would do basically what I wanted was a tool that I could send everybody, had dates on it, they'd fill it out, and then I could look really quickly at a screen and see which date had the most filled out versions for it, right? So, so I didn't love, like Will said, I'm not going to pay for Calendly to do this. I need a free solution, right? So Poll Everywhere worked for a little while, but then they changed some features. It was annoying and started getting weird advertisements and stuff. It was a whole thing. So I got tired of it, and I started using Airtable for it. I ended up switching over to Airtable, and Airtable lasted a very long time. Okay, and I want to share now. Granted, I know how to use Airtable. Okay, so that's part of it. I'm sure there are other solutions out there you can find. I'm sure somebody could figure out how to use Google Forms perfectly fine for this, and it would be great. But here's the thing that I could do in Airtable that I didn't think I could do in Google Forms. Maybe you can. Well, I don't know. I don't know Google Forms and Google Sheets well enough. But yeah, we're about to find out. So let's pull this up here. I'm going to share screen. That's my secret way of telling Will to make sure he changes to the share screen background as I go to do this. And now it's not so secret because I just did it. So
not a lot of heads up.
So
I should have, but I didn't.
So this is the form. It just had, select your name. It had a little select field there for their names, and the dates that they could do. And then we eventually added some more things. Like we had multiple people hosting, so they check off whether or not they could host. And then notes got added because of Will, because he would fill the form out for days that he thought he could be there, but he wasn't entirely sure. And so we added a notes field because Will would leave in notes to tell us what days were optional, like days that he wasn't sure he could actually do. So all of this was really easy. The thing I really liked about this was that that I think a lot of other form tools didn't give me the ability to, is that I could create this one form and then easily change out the options that showed up for dates and stuff. And then on the back end of Airtable, I was able to set up a view that all I would do is, eventually this was easier until they restricted some pricing. There used to be just a dashboard for this, but they restricted pricing. So what happened is and I'm not even sure, Will, you've seen how I do this. So this stuff would come into Airtable, and the way it would come in normally was this little field was blank. Okay. And so it would come in, our different people would submit, and I'd do this. I'd just shift click and copy that over to there. And all of you watching, including Will, are thinking, why are you doing that? It's just the same data. I did that because what I was able to do is create a table over here that just counted, it rolled up the information. So when I did this, it would tell me which date had the most people, because I don't want to have to mentally count that. That's annoying. So and this one has only 4 people who filled it out. Sometimes we'd have like 10 people. So it was a little bit different.
Right.
So it would show me what number, and I go, okay, that's the number. November 16 have 5 people. That's the number that won. So we picked that date, which is ironically upcoming. So that's our next.
In real time, that's this Saturday.
In real time, that's this Saturday. So that was the form I did, right? So Airtable is super cool for doing that. It's a nerdy thing, but honestly, like you make all the nerdy jokes you want about it, but It has enabled us, for as Will said, for like 3 years to consistently do a game night every single month for the last several years, which to me is a big deal because these are friends that I don't see every single day. Some of them I do. Will I see every week, and basically every day. But that's fine because he never comes to game nights anyway.
And you know what? I almost didn't come to this one.
Yeah. So, but there are other friends I don't see every time, and so it's great. It ends up becoming now a month. Now, I will say I have, of course, shifted, because Notion decided it's a gift. I still think it was a gift to me returning to my old job. I think it was Notion going, welcome back. Notion created a form system.
Yes.
I actually just sent this out just a couple days ago. Will knows he got it. I recreated the system in Notion, and so I was able to create a form. Same thing, we filled it out. It's a little bit more complicated, this one, because we've got multiple questions we need to ask on this form because we're scheduling 2 months out because we're crazy like that. We do that. But here's the cool thing about Notion. They have charts. So I now have a chart that just tells me which days work best.
He's such a nerd, guys. He's my favorite nerd.
It's fine. There's even a happy hour that I do with friends that has been a struggle. So we started doing forms for that. We just never did it. We would do it again, it was one of those things, like, we make these jokes, but like, as we become adults, it is, with all busyness in life, and especially as people are having kids and stuff, it becomes so much harder to do this stuff regularly, right? Like, how many of us have stories of friends and people we end up seeing maybe every couple months because it's tough to get schedules together, and tough to work this stuff out. I have just found that this dumb, nerdy form solution for me is like the silver bullet with multiple friends. It just, as long as and of course I'm a nerd, so I have reminder tasks built into my own Notion system that reminds me to send this form out like,
on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis, right? Like, so there's a whole thing. But I have been really, I don't know. I have been really thankful for some of this tech being available to me as a person, because I'm able to leverage it to bring people together who, honestly, we make that joke, but we were just making the joke the other day about, we invited another person to game night. We were like, who gets cut from game night? And I think somebody made a joke, like, I think Oliver and I were joking about each other being cut. And I told Oliver, well, if you cut me, then the form stops getting sent. And I'm not sure if the game nights will happen. And he just looked at me and was like, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
I guess I'm cut then. He's
so anyway, there's my one.
I like it. And of course I've benefited from it time and time again. So thank you.
And I would say in the holidays and stuff too, like if you're thinking about like how to figure out who's bringing what food,
who's hosting, what food to bring, who's buying the turkey.
These are two options: Airtable and Notion. Now they're a little bit more complicated than the average, but there's
or go to Google Forms. It can do
SurveyMonkey. There's real quick, which one is it? We just used it. I'm opening up the tool real quick to find it. No, that's not right. Okay, I have to find it later.
Good talk.
There's a tool we use for signing up for food where you can like sign up and select food from an option.
Sure.
List. I just can't remember what it is.
There's actually a bunch of those too, because
there's a bunch of them.
Some of them have cropped up because of like, somebody had a kid, so they're like themed around like, oh, let's make sure you have meals for a kid, or like somebody gets sick, and so it's like, oh, let's make sure somebody gets food for a few months because they've got cancer or things like. Those kinds of tools are all out there. So my first up, like, I'm not married to any one tool, but my family specifically does not like just go all out with Christmas presents per se, or like gifting. We always do a Pollyanna. We do. So I think that's the right name. There's a white elephant, Pollyanna. They all have different terms, but practically we pick a name and that's who you focus on for your gift. So it's okay if you buy someone else a gift in the family, but I get my brother-in-law Pat, Marissa gets her sister Liz, Casey gets mom, Eric,
We'll
it's dad, whatever
just
it is.
ruin Christmas because everybody knows who their Secret Santa is now.
Surprise! No, I don't
I'm
even know.
joking.
I was just making it up. But like
some of that was
those
the
kinds of
actual list,
things.
and right now Casey's listening to this podcast episode, going like, "Oh, dang it!"
Casey, Pat, and Eric sometimes listen. So if you guys just listened, I just ruined Christmas. No, I didn't, because
Christmas is
I
ruined.
really made it up. But DrawNames, very simple. DrawNames.com is one of these tools that lets you set it up, put in all the names, blah 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 blah. But you could just pull names from a hat, right? But again, with this family, for a while, Liz and Eric lived in Texas. Still to date, they live in Philadelphia. We live in Lancaster. The others live pretty close together. So it's like getting
Their
together
social
to draw
security
names.
numbers are the following:
177-44-4444. No, I have no idea whose social security number I just said.
You just said somebody at the end.
It's probably the real one. Is that illegal? I take it back. You're not going to hear anything on podcast. I just edited out me saying some random numbers on screen. No. When people don't live near, you can't just draw names from a hat. And so something like this makes it easy to do it from afar. But what I didn't know was that, because my sister-in-law Liz facilitates, she administers this, she takes care of it. It like over time, it can like knows who got picked last year, right? So you can start to like, some of the issues with drawing a name is you could get the same person every year. If you do it if you truly do it randomly, you could have the same person every year. And like, where's the fun in that? And then if I'm married to Marissa, and we're all married, to our spouses, and we're all
just a big gift, from year to year.
Oh my gosh, I take it all back. There's another just big old omitted. You're just not going to hear anything that was just said 3 seconds ago.
I was making the bell,
but it's like, it's not fun to just all of us choose our own spouses and then have to give our spouses all the gifts, right? We want to give gifts across the family. So it has settings. Liz does this where it's like, don't give somebody the same person they had last year. Don't give Marissa Will. Don't give Casey Pat. Don't give Liz Eric. Like all this stuff, right? It has settings that make it so we continue to get different people every year and try stuff out. So that's why, it's not just like simple, like, oh, you just do a Pollyanna, Will, just draw names from a hat. Like, we're pretty serious about it, and we take it to the next level. There's another tool out there. It's called Elfster. It's the same thing. You just sign up for free. You put out what you're wishing. And on both of these, DrawNames, Elfster, you can put in like you can make a wish list in it. You can like link in wish lists. Like, it's very useful for like picking gifts and stuff together. DrawNames, of course, it's the holiday season. It makes you feel like it's about Santa and Christmas, but you could use this any time of the year if you're just doing a gift giving thing of any sort. But my one group of friends, for a long time, we all met using Schoology, the LMS, so many, many, many years ago. And we were all across the country. There was a group of us for a while that like, we actually did this just as strangers. Like we'd met a few times. We used Elfster for like 3 or 4 years. We'd send each other random gifts. It was just a fun little pick me up. You never knew who picked you. You never knew what you were going to get. And it was just a little bit extra cheer in the holiday season. So these tools, again, to help bring people together, facilitate all of the randomness, all the anonymity, all the surprise of gift giving. Because that's, gift giving is a beautiful, wonderful thing. But some of it's like what am I going to get? Who am I going to get? What am I going to get from who? Right? That is some of the joy. So that's just one little tool, hopefully, to help you all do that. It doesn't bring friends together who've been friends for 20 years, like, forms or something. But.
Yeah, well, it does get gifts. I don't get gifts out of this. Although I guess you count games giving. We do games giving in the group. So, which is ironic, we always call games giving, but it never happens in Thanksgiving. It always happens in January because we can never do it around the holidays. So I like that option. Honestly, I didn't know about DrawNames or any of those options. I'm curious about using some of those. Our family still does on my parents' my dad's side still does gift exchange. Same thing, big enough family.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna get everybody a bunch of gifts and stuff. So it's like
Josh found a new toy.
Yeah. So, but trying to get that side to use technology. Yeah, they'll probably still end up filling out a stupid posted card with information on it. I did this year put a Christmas list in Notion. I never plan ahead for Christmas. People always ask me what I want. and I'm like horrible at it. I'm just like, so this year I was like, I'm going to commit to like actually having an answer for people. So I created a little list. And you of course use Notion because why not? So
as you should,
as we should. Okay.
Speaking of Notion,
well, no, I'm gonna switch gears for real quick. I don't know if number 4 was supposed to be yours or not. Is number 4 supposed to be yours?
Yeah. Well, it was split. Yeah.
Oh, it's split. Oh.
Split is a
thing. I thought you made a mistake.
Come on.
I corrected it. Okay, fine. I'll just use Notion again. I want it to be known though that when Will shares number 4, I also know those. So these are not the only apps I use. Okay.
Josh makes a Notion thing to split a dinner.
I just want people to be aware that I know other things, and I don't know why it's labeled Notion because I'm not using Notion for this. I again am using Airtable. And again, it's related to board games. I need other options. None of my family uses technology.
That's too funny.
They don't want to use technology. Okay. So if you thought Will and I were nerdy before, hold on to your hats. Because it's about to get wild. Okay. So the same game group, we were struggling for a little while to know who had what games. Okay. I know this seems like a first world problem, and it 100% is. It is. There's no doubt about that. I don't disagree with you. This is a first world problem. But okay, we wanted a way to be able to tell who had what games because we had a bunch of people. Some people had way more games than Will and I. Others had less. And so we wanted to see who had what games so we could try to figure that out. And also, so when we were doing games for like Gamesgiving or other stuff, we didn't end up buying the same game somebody else had. So that birthed the one and only Game Base. Okay, so this Game Base is a database of all the board games, and it's a little out of date because we've not been using it as of recently. But I will be using it when we go to PAX Unplugged in December. So I'll be using it to add stuff in. It tracks all the games that our group has. Now, this one I think is specifically filtered. What is this filtered to?
Ben, Chris, Will, and Josh.
Yes. Okay. So I was going to say this is way too many, but the database is filtered by number of players. So we wanted to see what 6-player games we have. We have all the information located in the database.
We need to update this. I love this thing. We have to get this up to date. I have so many more games.
I don't know why it just kind of fell off the radar for this team, but it was the thing that we did, and we did use it.
Beautiful.
Like Chris, Will, Josh one got created because we were doing a game thing with those 3 people, and we wanted to see who had what before we brought some stuff. So we lined this up, and it had like a form attached to it, so somebody could take that form and use it to fill out, like take a picture of their game and stuff. And we went to PAX Unplugged the one year. All 3 of us were using it to like track what games we were getting. So the game group could see what we were getting. It was super cool. It was a cool way to bring people together and have some fun together. So it was a good old time. And I used Airtable.
I don't think I've played Tiny Tina's Tea Time with you. Is that good? We should play that.
Yeah, maybe you haven't. Did you not play with that? Didn't we play that at my house the one time?
Maybe it sounds familiar, but I
got that at PAX the one year.
We need to play it again. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give that a go. So see, look, already bringing people together that clearly are not together nearly enough. So that is a fun way. Again, I like Airtable a lot. I think it's a cool database form tool that can do a lot of cool things. If you're looking for information,
could have sworn you had that built in Notion.
Nope, I will be moving into Notion. The biggest thing that held me back for a long time was Notion didn't up until recently have a form solution. So a lot of these got built in Airtable because they didn't have a forms option. Now, it was why you're probably thinking it was in Notion is because for a brief period, we weren't sure how to share it with everybody because I was the only one with an Airtable account. So I embedded a public view in a Notion page. That got confusing though, so we started getting people to create Airtable accounts because the app the Airtable app was a lot easier to use on your phone.
Right.
For stuff, and this thing we were using mobily a lot because people were like getting on their phone real quick to see who had what games. So
you need to build the intake for before you go to PAX this year, and
yeah,
all the new games go into Notion.
Yeah,
and then we need to work on something to migrate from, because there's got to be an API or an export import that we could like get it
that
out
feels
of.
really intense for a game database, but yes, there's probably an easy.
It's so beautiful.
It's a database. I can probably just pull it out as Excel.
Exactly.
And see,
you might have to like re-upload the pictures.
The images will need re-uploaded. They're not going to come
right.
over. But
right.
I mean, Notion does have an Airtable converting tool. You can bring Airtable stuff into Notion. I just don't know what all it brings in.
Cheers, my friend. You're ready to go.
There you go. So if you're looking for a good database tool, Airtable and Notion are both very good solutions. I love both of them.
All right. Well, once you've bought those video games and you need to spend money between
Board
friends and board games or both.
Yeah, come on. Well, I mean, you can buy video games too.
Or you're going to PAX Unplugged for the weekend. And you're going to share costs with people. Like this is something. Oh my gosh! As I slam my microphone. So sorry, internet. So sorry. My bad.
The whole internet.
My apologies. The friend of the podcast. I'm sorry to you.
Yeah, the whole interweb. The friend of the podcast. Sorry about that.
My family, we just get into like a holiday week, and it's like everybody's just swiping their card. Nobody's like stopping twice to be like, oh, do you want to pay, or should I pay, or oh, you paid last. Like nobody talks about it. You just like, if you went to pick up the pizza, you use your card, you pay for the pizza, you bring it back to the house, right? Like when my family gets around and starts doing stuff like this, we really roll into it. And that's where you need an app that will help you split the costs up, because at the end of the day, when it comes down to, in my case, 3 to 4 couples around family sharing costs, it's way too much to know who ate what, how much was eaten, which card was used, did a spouse not participate in that meal. Like taking a receipt is not going to have all that. So we use previously Splitwise. We've stopped using Splitwise because they went super hard freemium. It's like annoying to actually use it anymore with all their restrictions. We've been using Splid. Splid is something where you can kind of like make a pool, you invite everybody in, and then you can just settle up eventually. But Venmo, actually, which we all have been using Venmo for years, has just released this feature as well. So whether you want to go to something new like Splid, yeah, you can go just right into Venmo and make a group in Venmo, and then you add people to the group, and you can tally up who spent what for who, and then it gives you the most important thing about these kinds of tools is it gives you a simple total, right? If Josh paid $15 and I paid $20 and Sam paid $23, it's like who owes who what. It does the math to figure out, well, out of all that, Will actually owes Josh and Sam $6. Like that's the, Josh and Sam are married, so I don't want to pay Josh $17 and Sam $3. It's like the difference is $6. I pay them both $6. That's how we're done. For me, this is really important because like I get a little bit of like spending anxiety and like money anxiety. Like I don't want to shortchange somebody. I don't want to like buy something.
I like ripping people off, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, McScrooge over here.
My problem is remembering to check Venmo notifications.
That's why there's a remind button, and I click remind Josh. It's never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. But like for me, it's like one of these things where it's like really, it's easy to do. It's fair. Everyone can see it, and if you put in something like somebody wasn't expecting, like, hey, Will, why'd you charge me the $3 for that coffee that you said you weren't, whatever. Like you can talk about stuff, and I think around the holidays we don't need any more stress. So a tool like Splid be my recommendation if you're trying a new tool, or Venmo if you already have it. Have these group sharing things that really help with costs and keeping things easy for people. So that's one of my tools. It's very simple, but it helps, I think, keep things clean, which I like.
Yeah, I agree.
The holiday does not need more stress.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it makes it better, really. It's the holidays.
Stress.
Really, it's what it's for.
I figured. You're all, again, McScrooge over here. You're all about the stress.
Yeah, that's not true. I'm back in higher ed too, so I get off around the Christmas again. So it's like the least stressful time of the year. So I don't have to go back to work. Yeah, so our last option on here is one we talked about before, but Discord actually I think is a great tool for bringing people together, especially on like, so we have down here for like hobbies and stuff. You have people that like the same similar stuff. It's a good way. A lot of streamers or online connections use Discord really well to create community, which I think is really cool. Like we have a friend Allie who has a whole channel in Discord for all of her streamer followers, whatever their names are. I forget, they have like a name.
Oh gosh.
Alley
Cats. The Alley Cats.
Alley Cats. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. We should know we're both in it in Discord. I don't click in it very often. But it's a great way to bring people together. But I think even a practical example of this too, it's also a great solution. And there's a lot of other solutions out there, like iMessaging tools and stuff that you can use. But when we were in Mexico this summer, we weren't sure what texting was going to look like, who would be able to do what. And so we used Discord to create channels for this big group of friends we had down in Mexico. And that was a really great solution. We were all able to keep track of each other, talk to each other. It was super helpful and really useful. So I really like Discord as a solution for that. I think it's just a great, it's a great, very accessible digital like channel based chat tool. I said a lot of words there, but the like Slack is, those of us who have used Slack in a professional sense know what it's like, and we really like it. I kind of view Discord as like the unprofessional version of Slack.
Oh yeah.
Like
the tie is off.
Yeah. Like if Slack, like if Slack and Discord were people, okay? And there are people who work at the companies, but if the entity were people, right? Like Slack's like your Gen Xer, you know? Like Slack gets there at the right time of the day. It's probably home a little later than he should be. He's a worker, right? You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Checking his email at the dinner table.
Checking his email at the dinner table. It's a whole thing. Discord is like the millennial of the group.
Yeah.
Like it's
literally the streamer. Yeah.
Yeah. He does work, but
he's a content creator,
Yeah, he's a content creator. And that's both Will and I's generation. I'm not like
pointing the finger. As we make a podcast, we are content creators.
Yeah, he goes skating, occasionally. It's his thing.
Ice skating, roller
skating. Skateboarding. I was imagining a skateboarder. Sorry, I jumped a little too far into my picture without bringing the rest of you along in the journey.
Help paint it for the rest of us.
He also drives tanks. It's a whole thing.
I
want
to hang out with this guy.
I really like Discord. Will and I use Discord for the podcast and the company because it's free and we can use it, and it works really, really well. We can create different channels for different things. So I know a lot of people who've been able to bring their families together because they don't want to have to do Facebook groups and stuff, and so they use like a Discord. And and they might have to help some of the older members of the family get into Discord, but they've gotten them there.
Once they're there, it's
a pretty simple tool.
You show them how to make a GIF, and all of a sudden the entire thing's over.
It's super easy to bring those in. You need a tool that can bring in a GIF once in a while.
It's definitely one of those tools that I also believe like it was built for hobbies. It's built for like the third space. It wasn't Slack and some of them they have kind of a business purpose. Like Discord is meant to be a fun.
It's meant to be the everyday. It's the everyman's chat tool.
Yeah.
It's the average guys. It's the average guy's chat tool. Yeah, nobody else is gonna get that. That's from a board game.
Just for Jed.
It's fine. Jed. Yeah, because Jed listens to this podcast so often.
Listen to this episode.
He probably won't, but I'll let him know when we go to Pack Some Plug. I'll let him know that he's been mentioned.
38 minutes in, Jed. 38 minutes.
38 minutes in, it'll pay off. Don't worry. Yeah. So anyway, love Discord. There's a lot of other tools I think out there that could bring people together, but those are tools that Will and I have really loved and experienced and have made a difference in our lives, bringing people together, and have been useful. And so I encourage you to go check out any of those. If you want to get started with any of those, we'll link all of them on our website, so you can go check them out and have fun with them. I don't have more to add. So next on the High Tech Podcast,
there you go.
Is episode 176, the second episode of our Christmas. It's not really a series. They don't all connect. It's more of like Christmas vibes. That's really all it is. Our second Christmas episode 176 next week. We're going to actually be talking about how to teach tech well. And you're going to ask yourself, what does this have to do with Christmas, Josh? And I'll say, internet, good question. Okay? And so I'll answer it. Thank you for asking such a great question, internet. I know
Thank you,
Will
internet.
offended you earlier by punching the mic, but we're bringing it back together now. We're healing relationships. Internet, great question here. Okay. So many of us have to teach our elders, I will call them,
Our loved ones.
Technology during the Christmas season. So many of you listening have to teach that wonderful grandparent who just got the iPad to just look at pictures of their grandchild, but now they also have to know how to open it. You
unlock it.
You get to
and
teach
get into
them,
the pictures.
Yes, you get to teach them how to do that. But in all seriousness, Will and I have been, over the last probably combined over a decade worth of experience that Will and I have been teaching people tech, and not just elderly people. Lots of people. So we have some thoughts on how to do that well. And this will not just be how to teach people tech during Christmas, though. I hope you'll take away some practical steps, but listening to how do you teach tech well in general, we want to talk about that before we get into the holiday season. That's right. That's for all of you on the internet, because the internet is a friend of the podcast. Anyway, again, just a reminder, you can find us on all the socials at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. Again, we apologize every episode that there are 2 of them, but we're actually not that sorry. You can also email us at inbox@hightechpod.us if you'd like to reach out to us, if you'd like to tell us how mad you are that I'm not that sorry. Internet, if you'd like to reach out to let us know how you're doing, because you're a friend of the podcast. The website, you can check us out, hightechpod.us. Every episode page has information about the episode. Like this one, we will have links to all the tools we talked about. All the fun stuff. Maybe I'll even embed our game database so you can know what our group of friends has for board games. I know that's gonna be very useful to
good
all
recommendations
of you
for others.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, folks, that's a wrap on another week. Empowering minds,
embracing tech. Cheers.
Cheers.